So, um, hello everyone again. I'm happy that you came today for our event about the 7 deadly sins in fintech UX design. We will have today like a presentation about this topic, and afterwards we will have like a small networking event on another platform called Your Tribe. Or my colleagues will introduce you to this at the end of the presentation. And just some words about us that like I'm Dr. Andras Rung. I'm original linguist, but I'm working as a UX professional for almost 20 years. And 8 years ago, I founded our agency, Ergomania Digital Product Design. And we are working mostly for fintech companies and banks. And during the last 10 years, we collected a lot of experience how to do properly UX design projects. And I'm going to talk about the pitfalls regarding these projects and also how to avoid them. So I'm just about to share my presentation. 1 minute, and to just start. So do you see my screen? Can you confirm it?
Yes, we do.
Okay, thank you very much. So as I mentioned that I'm going to talk about the 7 deadly sins in fintech UX design. So basically, I grouped problems and pitfalls regarding fintech projects into 7 categories based on this popular notion, the 7 deadly sins. And I'm going to talk about these one by one. The first one, what I would highlight before we jump in, that like, though we hear very often on conferences and in business conversations that UX is important, customer experience should be highlighted, and there are like UX departments, customer experience departments all over. It's still mostly like a buzzword in banking and fintech. Several times they just use it in a cosmetic way, or they're talking about these topics, but they are not actually deploying UX design in every project where it's necessary. And the other problem related to this, that usually in these kind of financial projects, there is no clear strategy how to deploy UX and when it's necessary, and what are the steps when you have to execute. So usually in financial projects, they don't use like a real framework, and they don't connect to a higher strategy. So they want to push through digital transformation, but digitalization itself doesn't solve problems. You have to solve real problems, and several times digital solutions are the key for that. And also the problem that like even if in financial projects we use UX, these are not integrated to other projects. So it's not aligned with product management, it's not aligned with the business goals, and not aligned with the IT. So it's several times these are the problems. So we are relatively far from the promised land, though we are talking about this quite often. And the first problem, what I would highlight, is pride. So very often when we are working with financial entities, that they think that they know everything about how to do UX projects properly, though they have like a relatively limited knowledge. So they participate in 1 or 2 projects, and they overgeneralize based on these projects that what are the good things. So if they were seeing like a designer using all the time black and white wireframes, they think that like black and white wireframes are the golden standard. So like when somebody is using red for error messages in wireframe, they think that like, oh, why you are using this red text, because everything should be black and white, because they can't differentiate that like in different kind of projects you have to deploy different these methods, or that in one project the UX designer or the UX design team appear to create wireframes. So they think that like UX people are good for wireframe, they are the drawing guys. So they don't understand that like it's much better to focus in discovery phases, also to understand the user needs and the business concepts and work together from the beginning. And also, it's very often happening that, like, since these people, they think who are running projects involved in UX as well, that they are ignoring the international trends. So they think that, like, okay, what's happening in the US, it's very different. What's happening in UK, it's very different. So in our country, in Germany, Austria, Hungary, Netherlands, whatever, we're very special, and we have to invent everything based on our experiences. And it's not true. Several times you can learn a lot from these international experiences. And like how to handle these problems, one of them is that, like, to know very well best practices. In financial design, it's very complicated because several times these systems are closed systems. So you can just check out the other internet bank or check the other mobile bank, or especially like more complex platforms like trading or internet banking system. But like you can still find a lot of examples. It got easier to check mobile banking examples in Google Play or App Store. There are a lot of videos that you can check, and also it is very complicated to open accounts in competing banks or institutions. But if you start to use, like, for example, a service like FS11 Pulse service, you can check several customer journeys, actually, like hundreds of them for different purposes, like onboarding, account opening, send money, transaction history, whatever. You have like an infinite example storage there. So you can learn easier from the others. Also, it's very important to run user research as soon as you have a concept to what you want to implement, because in that case, like, you will be on the right track and you understand that what the user they really need. And in the discovery phase, also, it's very good to use like more playful and more engaging method. So not just like interviews, but like to use like design studio, what is like a rapid prototyping method in what you can involve the business side, the IT guys, the potential users, and so on. Or to use like Lego Serious Play, what is a very good creative method to engage the users and the business side to express their thoughts and directions with Lego bricks. Um, and talk about this concept, what are visualized in 3D. It's much easier to form new concept than just talk and maybe to draw on wireframe on whiteboards. Also, it's very important to have a continuous training for those people who deal with customer experience UX, because like there are always new things and changes in this profession. So it's good to be updated. And several times during these trainings, when you're running a financial project, it's quite important not just to learn how to do UX properly, but specifically to learn how to deal with UX and product design people. Also, it's very important in this process, not just in the research, but involve engineers and designers as soon as possible, that they could express their expertise and opinion about the upcoming projects. So it would not be like a rigid carved in stone concept what they can't change even if they see that it won't work with the real users. The second problem, what I would highlight, is like gluttony, that like the urge to do as much thing as possible, as quick as possible. And the biggest problem usually is with the deadlines. So of course we have to have deadlines, but several times in UX and design related projects, the deadlines are very wishful. It means that like usually the people who are setting up these deadlines, they don't know very well how much time it takes to set up a design concept, how much time is to do the wireframes, the design, and usually they are heavily underestimating these processes. So it's very common that like you get requests and tenders to design a complete internet banking interface in 3 months, 4 months, and so on. And usually it takes like minimum half year, but rather 1 year. But we have seen like design processes for internet banks what last like 3, 4 years. And also like several times the deadlines are based on some kind of external deadlines that like we have to complete this and this interface in this year, or development capacity will be free in autumn times, so we have to do it until that time. So it makes the projects very chaotic, and when you are pressuring design process into too short time frame, like it will have like a significant damage, because you have to drop out research, you have to drop out testing, or you won't have enough time to think things over, and several times because of that you have to completely redo your projects after a while. So at the end it will take much more time. Also, several times in UX projects, they don't dedicate budgets for these projects. So when they realize the need that like, okay, we have to do something with this drawing stuff, they have to find the budget somewhere and allocate to UX and customer experience. And it means that like they won't have the optimal budget. Also, it's problematic that in UX projects, several times they push generic sales, what means that there is no personalization to sell products, and there are much better modes to customize the offering based on the user knowledge, and it would have much better conversion. And it's also quite important problem that usually in these projects they have a feature overload. It means that they try to cram as much features into the project, what they call several times still MVP, like minimum viable project, but it has like much more features what it's needed. And because of that, they can't execute the most important one in the necessary quality. And how to handle these problems? First of all, it's very important that product people, product manager, and product owners, they would know the real requirements of the UX processes. It means that they would understand how much time you need for discovery, conduct proper research, and so on. Of course, if you are not a UX leader, you should not know everything about the time requirements, but in that case, you have to involve the UX people to make good estimates for you, and that you would calculate that what is the real need and how much time and money you have to allocate for these projects. Also, like what I mentioned, that like generic sales doesn't work, but if you want to sell more, like UX is very good tools for that. That like you can have more context sensitive sales processes, or you can have like more personal sales processes. So for example, it's very common that for example, sales offerings banks are pushing. If you log into your internet bank and you get an offering based on some segmentation, it's much better if you get these offerings based on your life situation. So you get an insurance offering when you are at the airport, or you get a saving offer when we recognize that you got a significant amount of sum on your account, or we offer you a loan when we notice that like you struggle with your finances at the end of the month, and so on. These are much more effective. And also, like when we are talking about that, like these institutions, they have too many features to cram into projects. Like you can filter out the unnecessary features with good research. One of them, the best one, is mental models. What it means that you discover what kind of tasks the people are using, or they want to execute, and based on that you propose features. So you just support real tasks and real goals with features, and not just like what the business department figured out last week. The third thing what I would highlight is last, that like we want to consume too much at once. One of them is that like methodological inconsistency. It means that like several times since the projects are set up by those people who doesn't understand the exact value and methodology of UX, they set up projects in a kind of patchwork manner. So they think that, okay, somebody have to design the screens, so let's design them as soon as possible. Actually, like for example, we have now a banking project in what we set up properly, like discovery, define, and so on the project. But the banking people, they can't imagine that like how these screens they will look like, and they got impatient and they want to cram wireframing and designing into the discovery phase. So like in that case, you design some stuff what you don't even understand how it should work. Also, it's a problem visual inconsistency. So several times when bigger institutions, they are focusing on UX, they have one team who has a visual preference, the other team who has a visual preference, and these are not aligned. Not mentioning that if your organization operates in several countries, it might happen that like the designs and the surfaces are very different in every country. And also like it's a problem that several times financial organizations, they try to set up products from technical specifications. So they describe things what you have to visualize, and it's much harder to design properly if you use words instead of visuals. And how to handle these things, how to be subdued. It means that, for example, it's good to have like flexible framework. For example, in our company, Argomania, we use the 5D framework. From what the first three steps are the most essential for us. It means like discovery. It means that understanding the user needs and business needs. Afterwards, define to set up the processes, what kind of screens, what kind of functionalities we will have. And afterwards, the real design phase when you design and visualize all the screens. It's very important to run weekly reviews to be consistent. It means that you can use like a standard design critic methodology that like to get feedback and use these things. Also, it's important to eliminate in these processes ad hoc changes, so to involve everybody on time in the decision process and make sure that like who makes the decisions will be involved in every step and cannot reverse the whole project at the end of the project. And what is very critical also to use design systems. They are getting more and more popular. For example, recently we just designed one complex design system for Treasure app by Rabobank. And in this design system, we specify the visuals from very small atoms to bigger entities and how to use these things and in which situation. With this, you can have like a consistent, not random interface. And if you have several products, they will be aligned as well in this case. Anyway, the fourth thing, that like it's a problem that like several financial entities are focusing on competitors, what they have, what they launched, and instead of focusing on the users, they are thinking about that like how to get the users of the others instead of keeping their already existing customer base. And this behavior prevents you also to focus on real innovation, because the problem is that like you just want to launch things what the others they have because you think that it's important and it works. And for example, you can see what's happening with voice design. That in Ergomania, we are dealing with voice design for almost 7 years. So we started to focus on this topic in 2013, actually, when we started to work for BNP Paribas. And what happened? Nobody is focusing on that, and nobody is implementing, because they said that like, I don't implement this feature because like the others, they don't have it. So nobody is going on with these things. And suddenly when there is like a little change, somebody at the end implements this feature, everybody starts to implement it afterwards, but it's too late, or the users, they were waiting for that. So your visually impaired users, people who are very busy, they were just waiting for this feature for several years. I know that, for example, KBC is launching Kate soon in the Belgian and the Czech market. All the competitors, they started to think and work on this this interface because they want to catch up, because they are motivated by envy. And how to handle this? That like, first of all, we have to focus the user on the users and not on the competition. So if we serve our users, we should not care about the competition because they will focus on us as well. And this, its best tool is research again, so to understand what they want. And also, you should not be afraid to set up new trends, because in several times it's risky. But if you are following the real trends, you can make big mistakes. So for example, just to go back to the former example regarding voice, if you are watching trends, it's obvious that like voice solutions will be very popular, and they will be used by people all the time. But since they are waiting for these solutions, they don't do the right thing. The fifth thing what I would highlight is that like several times design or product development is based on anger. That like we want to get the new customers, and our existing ones are neglected. And based on that, like since it's not a structured approach to based on a strategy, we have a very fragmented experiences, and the whole workflow is very hectic for the whole team. So it's not just bad for the users that it's fragmented, but people who are involved in this hectic workflow, they burn out very quick, and you can lose your best people just in the right moment when you need them the most. And how to prevent this? It's one of them is that like you have to have like a service design approach. It means that like you are not just focusing on one channel, but all of the channel and on entire offering, and you take consideration that like how physical and digital should be aligned. Very good to follow up with existing customers and their needs is diary study. It helps you to understand like longitudinal problems. In diary study, your users are recording their experiences day by day, and you can analyze it and you can figure out bigger structural problems. And of course, like you have to provide creative work environment for your design teams that they could focus on good experience. Another problem, what I would highlight is greed. That it means that like usually design teams are very small compared to the development teams because organizations they try to spare money on that. But obviously, if you compare like companies like, for example, Revolut or Standard Bank's Revolut has around 2-3% of their employees are design related people. In a Standard Bank, for example, it's 0.1. So they have like 20, 30 times bigger design teams like a standard organization. It's not a big surprise that their design, their customer experience is way much better because they spend money on that. Several times, organizations they try to spare money to drop out testing and research, what is not a good thing because you will develop a product what nobody needs. And also, internal systems they love design several times, what's used by thousands of people, but they think that it's okay for them, and they spare money on them until they quit or they make fatal mistakes. And also, it's very common in bigger organizations in the financial field that like they don't spend enough money to hire good talent because they think that like, oh, we just need some guys to make some designs. So why to hire senior people or why to hire strategist level of people? Like these juniors, they will solve everything. That's not true. So you have to really spend money to set up a good team and work with top-notch agencies. So any agency from the next corner won't provide you good products and good solutions without real financial expertise. And also, if you're unsure about how to spend your money wisely, just start with small projects. So like just redesign a flow in your product and make it good and observe the result. And based on that, step by step, you can grow. And the last problem or sin what I would highlight is that like SLOTH, that it means that everybody understands what is the problem, everybody knows the direction, but nobody is doing anything. It's very typical that in financial organizations, the mid-level management knows the direction, but they don't get enough support from senior management because they still believe in the old-fashioned way. And funny thing that, like for example, that in these COVID times, everybody is talking about the digital transformation is needed, and there is a big jump in digitalization, and so on and so on. But we work with several fintech companies, several banks, and so on. And we see that like everybody understands the direction that we need to digitalize, but actually they're doing the opposite. They are holding back finances because they are unsure about the situation, which direction to take, and they think that like anyway this digitalization will happen. Why to spend money on that? It won't happen if you spend money on that. But somebody, your competitor, will spend money on that, and people they will go there because they will get much better service there. And how to handle these things? Like first of all, it's very critical in every organization to convince senior manager early on that you really have to spend effort and money on this kind of approaches. Lean UX is a very good approach in that respect that like you don't make big commitments in the beginning, but you experiment and iterate your solutions and you gain confidence during this process. And also like your specifications and your plans are designed parallelly with the design screens and processes. And based on this, what we experienced how to get to the promised land, how to have like an organization in finances what is really strong in customer experience, UX experience. Um, First of all, you need to have like a very strong, dedicated team. So like with only junior people or part-time people or people who had some blog entries about UX or your business analyst who likes to grow, we won't make big change. You need dedicated quality people, and it can be handled several ways. So you might build an internal team, what is strong enough, or what is very common in banking organization, that they have a core team focusing on UX, but they work with fintech specialized agencies who knows what to do and when to do that. And or if you're a smaller organization, you can work even with quality freelancers who are helping you time to time. So you can set it up, but it's important to focus on the quality and the expertise, and special domain knowledge is very critical in this field. And it's very important to have a framework that everybody would follow the same way. And also, if you are integrating new people, they could follow this framework. And what is often left out, even in bigger organizations, that like research should lead the design. So you have to provide solutions what people they really need. And thank you very much for your attention. And this was for today about fintech UX problems, and hopefully I provided some solutions for these problems. So thank you very much for coming. And meanwhile, I would tell you that like if you like today's presentations, we will have another one on Friday, and we will have a networking session and some follow-ups. And my colleagues are joining to tell you the exact details about this. Just 1 second.
Looks like we got the two most popular amongst the organization, which is Gluttony and Lost. Actually, it's a kind of a real story because we are also experiencing the same. We are sharing with you the one survey that you could share with us your opinion about the presentation. Hope you liked it, and we are constantly improving, so we are happy to hear your thoughts. We are going to continue on an informal session for networking on your tribe, and if you would like to get more involved with this topic or any other topics in UX and product design, we will be happy to meet you and to get to know you and answer your questions. Thank you very much.
Just one addition to your tribe. It's basically like a platform where you will have like a small avatar and you can move around like in a virtual coffee lobby or pub and something like this. And it's a really great and fun experience. So like you can meet new people and start like a chat with them like in a real coffee. And we were just using it last week for a speaker session with 20 people, and it was so much fun and so much interesting conversations that I hope that like you can join us and have this thing again to enjoy some meaningful and inspirational talks. So see you there, and thank you very much again for coming today.